Hey, this is Nicholas with the Backyard TARDIS here with another Backyard TARDIS Random Thoughts podcast. As I mentioned in my last one, we had so much Red 5 information in November that it is spilling over into a second podcast because we're going to talk about the first annual Parsec Fan Awards from the Red 5 network. And this was such an amazing thing, especially if you listen and interact with these podcasts. There are a lot of inside jokes, and to me, that was what wonderful is. It brought this community together, and it made it a very personal award. Yeah, I know some people who only interact with one or two podcasts still enjoyed the award show. So that was great that it had that overall appeal too. But so I wanted to just kind of take a little bit, talk a little bit about my involvement with it, and then talk about things that I appreciated and kind of try to cover everything, but I'm probably going to miss something because it was so jam-packed with so many different contributors. So I got a few notes here. First of all, it starts out, Cam Ray really put in the work. And I want to say that the three individuals that I want to thank the most for this is Andrew from the Science Fictionary podcast and Coruscant Radio Underground podcast. He initially put this idea together, and he did a lot of the vote fact finding and all that initial stuff together. Ro, Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, the Podfather, the individual who really helped organize the Red 5 network. He, of course, took this idea and said, we're going to make it better. We're going to add some skits. We're going to up the production. He did a ton of editing work on this at very short notice because I know a lot of us got our stuff in just under the wire past his deadline, and he still edited together something that was enjoyable and looked like it had production value. And a lot of that is due to Ro. And then, of course, out of all the ones that contributed, nobody contributed more than Cam Ray. Cam Ray had a lot of fun, and so special thanks to him for making this real special. And so it starts out, Cam Ray's clone number 44. He gets another clone to help him hack into the awards, and he's stealing the show, kind of doing the whole joke bit thing. And then, so we kind of have like, already we know, okay, Cam is starting us out. He's hacked the award. Whoa, this is going to be some fun stuff. Because that's, Cam Ray is basic fun. And then we go from there, and Rose says, well, I got to fix this. Nick's got a TARDIS. Better call him. So that's when Ro gives me a call, and I did a series of skits. First, I, in full disclosure, Backyard TARDIS, this is an idea for a podcast that eventually I want to do with my friend Kevin. And the first thing that me and Kevin bonded over is I walked over to his house and he had a TARDIS in his backyard. And so we've kind of shared this, done a bunch of Doctor Who projects, Doctor Who stuff together. And so I went over, I'm like, we need to do some filming. And got in there, did that. And Ro, though, the way he edited it, so one, he's got the clip of the TARDIS taking off, and he's got the music kicking into the background when I talk, and that really got to me. But I was like, okay, you want to do this timey-wimey? Let's have me. I told Ro, why don't we have me give it to you from like before the Red 5 network and have you be all confused, and we'll go back and forth. And Ro's like, let's do one better. My son looks like Kid Me. Let's get my son to come in and play Kid Me. And so you do that. So then he says, you kind of put a script together, and we worked it out. I did 3 or 4 takes for each of the ones, and I think I sent Ro the best 2, and then he kind of spliced it all together. Got the different things. I know in some of the takes I maybe voiced certain parts better. In other ones I had better Doctor Who. Oh yes, mannerisms. So I had a lot of fun with that. And then of course, all ends up Ro gets the thumb drive, plugs it in the computer, and the award show begins. That's when probably one of my favorite parts is when Ro's wife's voice comes on and she's introducing things, and and she says, "I'm Ro's wife and I hate sci-fi." I loved it. I loved the little hint of a podcast of my wife hates sci-fi. And it set the tone for the whole show. Was great. Then we had Chantel and Alan go into talking about what to expect from the show, doing the typical host introduction and talking about the Ready Award. Enjoyed that. And then we get our first sponsor. And I love that they brought the Conversation commercials into this as sponsors for Kishikan fried pork. So that made me laugh. I'm like, oh, okay. We're bringing that in. We're bringing the fun and crazy from everybody. Then we get a clip of Cam with a printout of Adam from certain point of view's face on, and he's, I'm dumb, da 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 da, doing that. That was pure fun. For those in the know, Cam and Adam have had this fun fake feud online that they constantly go back and forth. And one of the reasons why I like interacting with Cam and the others in that inner circle, which will come up later, is the fake feuds that we have on Twitter, because Twitter is full of all of these people taking really minor situations and blowing them up like they're World War III worthy. And really, we're just talking about Star Wars movies or MCU or something. So Cam's always good for bringing lightheartedness to that, and him and Adam playing off of each other is always fun. Let's see. Now, Extra Techie. I am curious to see if it was Extra Techie or Ro that did the transitions during his, because I know Extra Techie is really good at that stuff in his videos, and his section was just on point with like the transitions to the controllers, the vision. Really good when he talked about video games. Next up, Dave and Liv from Pizzas and Parsecs. They've been kind of on hold with the podcast as of late, and I'm looking forward to that kind of coming back. But it was really great to see them here, and of course, one of the best things out of during this pandemic was getting to do the presidential debates that we did between a few of us, and of course in the end Liv wins and saves pizza, because Cam Ray was going to eliminate pineapple on pizza, and that was his presidential stance. And we were just kind of making fun of just how upset and everybody was getting about that. And so I love that they brought that into this, that they so if you weren't aware of that, On Certain Point of Views podcast is the best place you can find a debate that sadly wasn't more ridiculous than the real debate that was happening at that time, but a lot of hijinks ensued. And we're going to have to get together at some point, because I've got some videos. I know Nathan Fox has got some videos. I know Cam's got videos up on his channel and David Liv did some videos. Most of them were just posted on Twitter. We need to, whether it be on Certain Point of View or on Cam's channel or somebody's channel, we need to actually make a playlist. Or maybe we should all post them on YouTube channels and then make a playlist on each of our channels that contains everybody's video so that more people see just the crazy fun we had. So I loved that got mentioned here. Then we got Sidebar Cantina. And they start out and they get an interruption and it's, go kiss your wife. And so he gets up and they have, it just captures their humans so well. And then they started the trend of not having watched the nominees. And this was a funny, reoccurring joke, is there was a ton of things that our listeners of our podcast nominated, or another podcast, but the person giving the thing didn't see any of these things, or maybe saw one of the things. And so Sidebar Cantina started that off. Then we had Andy from Holo Chronicles do the Atori Award. There was nobody better suited to give that one, and I truly appreciated they got him to come in and do that. WSTR came next, and they had a podcast. They gave a podcast in the middle of the Parsec Fan Awards. I enjoyed this because they also hadn't seen a lot of the things, and they're like, well, this, that, or I've heard this about Picard. And, yeah, I don't think Star Trek fans, most of them, they're going on and on. And it was during this that I was in the chat, and Joker Voice was in the chat, and Loki was one of the nominees. And you got to know Joker Voice. He is not a fan of a lot of current Marvel, and so he was just kind of going on like, man, I'm gonna flip a table if Loki wins. And then Loki wins, and we're all like, yay! And I said, everybody's happy, but Joker just flipped a table, and he's like, pretty much. And so it was equally fun to see that. Of course, Loki wouldn't have been my choice either. I would have gone with WandaVision, but to see that reaction, just the humor of that we had in the chat was just great. Christian Fandom Geek, newer member to the Red 5 network, he came on, did a bunch of cool lightsaber moves, just reminding us all, we're Star Wars nerds, that's why we're here. So that was cool. Then we got the Chosen One whiskey commercial. Love this, the joke behind this, all of the body, none of the legs. Sometimes, Pat and Charles, and I think Rob helped come up with this one from the Jedi Temple Archives. Good. And we got to see Reaper Girl. That was really cool. I loved how they got ones like Cam and me and Reaper Girl and these different ones that are not necessarily Red 5 Network members, but we are definitely like the super fans of Red 5 Network. And here we are getting to have segments on this Red 5 Network event. So really cool. Now it's Cam's turn. Now, if WSTR had a podcast, Cam Ray had the category of best music category, and he basically did an infomercial for his channel. Love this. So him and Bub did this together, and a little concerned. I think Bub killed Cam Ray clone number 44. Thoughts and prayers going out to clone 44. I'm a bit worried about how that turned out. But Cam proceeds to give such great numbers as Remember Shmi, It Had to Be Luke, Sleep Baby Grogu, Ever Hear of the Tragedy of Plagueis. So all of these wonderful songs that he had there. And from what I understand, Ro cut most of the stuff, so his segment was bigger and Roe cut it down. So maybe he just like put up sent Roe his playlist of his channel. I don't know. But it was pure cam fun. And then, of course, when the nominations were going, and it was funny, he got to one of my nominations, like him and Bub are reading them back and forth, and they get to one of my nominations that I put out there that I knew probably wouldn't win. I am a huge Sega nerd, and I knew some from WSTR were playing this game, but I really love the kind of like 80s Chiptown soundtrack from Streets of Rage 4 that recently came out. Very nostalgic type music for me, and so I had to put that on there because that was one of my top soundtracks for the year. But of course, for the artist of Cam Ray, like he's like, I love that. I love that he had that reaction to it. So that was 100% pure Cam Ray gold. Then we get Used and Abused talked about comics, and I love how they hadn't read any of these comics that were being discussed. They hadn't read anything current, but they didn't let their nerd cred go unnoticed because they decided to pull out their own comics and show off some sweet, sweet comics. And I just love how they nerded out about that, but nothing about the subject. And then, of course, gave us our winner. That was good. Then we had Roe, Cam Ray's just leading the award show off track. He's coming in. So who does Roe call after me to take care of that? None other than 97 Bravo. And he tells 97 Bravo that you're my only hope to stop that monkey lizard. So, really like that. Like, they kind of like he totally did the like Snake Boss from Metal Gear Solid like vibe. Really love that. Now he's gonna take out Cam, and it's funny. He's mentioned that he got some hate from like playing the jokes, as have I and Adam and Cam and Pizza and Parsecs and Nathan Fox and like all the ones that do these things with Cam Ray and they do these jokes. There's always these people that come out there and are like, man, why are you being such a jerk or this, or they unfollow you. And it's like, this is all like skit acting. This is not real. This is skit acting, skit drama. And so I thought it was funny how he picked that bone with the monkey lizard. Then we had Amanda from The Mandalorian talks about joining Red 5 as the latest Red 5 member. And so that was nice getting to kind of have that. And I hope that's something that goes forward, that maybe somebody, whoever's new to the thing, takes a moment to just talk about what Red 5 means to them. And she introduced Five Fingers with Ollie. That was definitely a fun little segment. And then that took us back to Pizzas and Parsecs, where they played a skit where in the Red 5 family, they're probably the original of the original members of the Red 5 family. They're probably the biggest one to cover comics, especially DC. They cover a lot of DC. I know Pod Wars covers a lot of the Marvel comics, and different ones have covered comics. But I think out of the original group of that, it was definitely Pizza and Parsecs. My tongue is not working. Who really got that going, and brought a lot of that superhero comic-ness into the Red 5 network. And I know they work with the Watchtower, another network that's specifically for the DC fandom. And so they play this skit of where, as if they didn't know that they each other liked things. And so they're, Liv is grilling Dave, like, I need to know answers. I need to know, what about comics you know? And he says, I know about Peter Parker. And she's like, what's Superman, or what's Peter Parker's suit like? Oh, well, yeah, he wears the Parker suit. And I just died laughing. The Parker suit. I mean, come on. It's like they're talking about like what color is it? And he's talking there's parallel dimensions, and he's doing. Um, I absolutely love this segment, and I really think that you have to know Pizza and Parsecs fully to get the full joke, because they are comic people. They're constantly buying each other comics as their gifts as husband and wife. So I really enjoyed that. So then we came to my part on the top new sci-fi or fantasy concept or idea of the year. And I love that Roe put the Doctor Who music once again. Like, it just elevated what I did much higher, much more than I thought. I was a little worried that I had talked for too much, because I have a tendency to do that. I ramble a bit too much. Of course, WSTR went on. They gave a podcast, and then Cam Ray did a complete infomercial. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm okay by this point. I'm like, I didn't talk too long, good, because others outdid me, and I enjoyed everybody's part, and so that I was just glad that I wasn't the most long person. No, I was a solo person. WSDR has the benefit of being a group of people chatting. But I did a lot of research, because I'd seen about half. Actually, no, I'd seen about 2/3. The only things I hadn't seen, there was an Amazon show, all of it, Solus, that I am definitely watching. Like, that's top interest. And then there was Tenet. Those were things I hadn't seen, but I had seen Tomorrow War. And then the other things were pretty much my suggestions, my stuff. Like, I had the Point of No Return audio drama, the or Sentinels Point of No Return audio drama, the Brooke and Barringer book by Matthew Kadish. Like, I read that, and then I got the audiobook of it and listened to the audiobook because I had loved reading it so much, and that had came out like right after I had read the book. I have to say that, and then I read the Earthman Jack book, which is based in the same universe, and I have to say that by the time I was, not only was I loving that, but then when I read the Earthman Jack book, like, that universe to me may have, in like the ranks of sci-fi universes, like, I think it bumped up above Star Wars. I want to see stories in that universe, and I wish all the success to Kadish someday getting picked up, even though I know that might affect his availability for the podcast, but I would love to see that done into, maybe an Apple TV series, an Amazon Prime series, something like that, or especially Brooke and Barringer, or maybe an original movie for the Earthman Jack series. Those are things that I would love to see happen. So I got to talk a lot about that, but for the things I did a lot of research, and from the feedback I was getting, for the most part, everybody really liked how much of a salesperson I was about it, and I tend to be that. I tend to be somebody who can be very positive, and I can sell something. I hate being in sales, because I hate selling somebody a product that is not good. And typically with sales, when that's your job, you are supposed to sell somebody even if they don't want it, don't need it. I stink at that, but I am a good spokesperson. So, just in the fact that I can convey true enjoyment, and I always find truth to it, and then I'm able to convey that. So, like with Tenet, I hadn't seen Tenet, but I'd been involved in a lot of discussion about Tenet, and I kind of thought, well, maybe it's a little highbrow for me, but then again, I really like the sci-fi conference. But the big thing I took away from that was, everybody finds it confusing. It's one of those movies that like kind of reps, wait, how does that work type thing? And so I focused on talking about that. But the one thing I want to say is to the heckler that was in the chat. that was during my part was asking, is this funny? Now, when this actually aired, not when I recorded, but when it aired and I was in the chat, we were actually in a waiting room at the vet. Um, we had a dog get injured. We had to be there for the vet, and we weren't even sure if the animal was going to live, how much this was going to cost us, all that. And I'm kind of just pouring myself into the chat. It was the reason why I didn't get to join the after party, was because I wasn't in a place where I could sit there and pull up and be on camera. And thankfully, at first, I didn't notice the person, and shortly after I did, they were removed. So they didn't really affect me. But, well, I do have my suspicions of who it was. I just want to say that don't, if you got a problem with me because of who I associate with online, because I associate with people on the left, on the right, the Last Jedi lovers, the Last Jedi haters, the people who are indifferent to it all. I talk with everybody. I love a difference of an opinion. And so, with that said, if you have a problem with that I'm willing to sit at all these different tables, that's the only person that I really have a problem with, that I have a hard time dealing with. But, if you have that issue, you know where my YouTube channel is, you know where my Twitter is, all that, Backyard TARDIS. I think I'm at Back TARDIS on Twitter. DM me, publicly message me, whatever. Voice your concern, say what you will about me, block me, whatever. But to create an account that proved to be kind of like a non-existent YouTube account just created for that, to mock me during the Parsec Awards, like, do you have nothing better to do with your time? That's just silly. But you know what? The end of the day, this was an amazing experience. And seeing all my friends in the Red 5 network come to my defense, they booted the person out for it. They meant more family to me, and so that's special. I'm my whole premise is I'm a locksmith. I get brief moments in between jobs, downtime, and I do this nerdy stuff. It's like therapy for me, to be able to just convey and talk and get my nerd out, so to speak. And I really don't care if anybody listens. It's just kind of my way of doing this. And when people listen, it's like even cooler. But I have no pretense of thinking that I am some high production YouTuber or anything like that, because I'm not. I do almost zero editing. Occasionally I do maybe 1% of editing. But, I have coughs. I've had the light go out, the power go out in the middle of it, and I didn't even stop the video. I fixed it and then continued on with the video. I don't edit. It's just not me. I don't have time for that. I typically work like a 65-hour or more work week. And so, to each their own. I get along with everybody, except for those that want to tell me that I can't get along with somebody. Those are the only individuals that I don't get along with. So, then we get to the Ready Award. And this was the big one. This one was so deserved. And I know when I was asked, who do I want to nominate for the Ready Award? And this was the person who initially came to mind. And I had to really think hard for another suggestion. And they kind of came back and said, hey, we're not going to actually do it like a category. We're just going to say, and this person, one of the people you mentioned is pretty much unanimously the only person we're getting suggested. And so I was like, okay, that's who I thought should win it. But I tried to come up with other nominees, but that was Dominic Pace. And even though I didn't get to go to any of the events that Dominic Pace was at, he went to multiple events that multiple Red Fivers went to, and he went on lots of Red 5 Network podcasts. And the whole thing is, he was out there being with the fans. He was out there promoting the brand, and at no point did he talk bad about Lucasfilm, about Star Wars in any way. Even though I know he could have gotten popularity for that or that, but at the same time, he did more to keep that brand alive than all the official accounts combined, in my opinion, he did so much interaction with the fans, and that is the biggest thing Lucasfilm is lacking, is true interaction with the fans. And they do interact with a few fans, but none of the biggest accounts, like Lucasfilm isn't doing stuff with Star Wars Theory. They're not doing stuff with Rebel Force Radio. Rebel Force Radio is the biggest Star Wars podcast. Star Wars Theory is the biggest Star Wars YouTube channel. Like, those people, they're not. We got the Red5 network, over 30 podcasts. Majority of them are focused on Star Wars. Lucasfilm isn't doing anything with them. Not that, to say that big, but they're just not. And it's one of those things where I see some other companies that maybe aren't putting out great content, or they're not doing this, that. But one of the things that they are doing is they're interacting with the fans, and I have so much more genuine draw to that. Any company that's willing to interact with the fans has my dollar. And Dominic Pace, the work he did to keep Star Wars in the forefront when it seemed like they were having disaster after disaster over this period of time, PR nightmares, where some of them were no-win scenarios. I feel like the whole thing with Gina Carano. I think that was something that no matter how Lucasfilm reacted, there were going to be a section of people that were going to be upset. But the fact is, they weren't out there engaging with the fans, and when they did engage with the fans, it was usually to call fans out, and that doesn't breed a good fan atmosphere. I'm not saying that they needed to be out there and, like a lot of people feel like they should be out there apologizing for The Last Jedi or something like that, but no, they just need to be out there doing stuff with the fans, and Dominic Pace did that, and he did that to help instill things for his son, to create a future for his kids, and that's out for you, Dominic Pace. And the fact that he was willing to accept the reward and do a video, really good. Then we get our last commercial, the Auto Gungan, like an annoying neighbor. Jar Jar is there. Love it. Love it. So good. And we get Pat and Charles. They've got the movie of the year. And one is dressed in Star Wars cosplay as like a Jedi robes, and the other one is dressed up like he's going to an awards show and like a tux-like type thing. And they're both kind of like, what are you wearing? What do you mean, what are you wearing? He's like, it's an award show. I'm wearing a tux. And one's like, we're a Star Wars network. I'm wearing Star Wars cosplay. Oh, okay. But I think my favorite moment was when one of them was like, well, I hadn't actually seen it really, and he's like, shh. But he does like this awkward reach over to this, shh, and shushes him. And I just laughed so hard. And of course, once again, they're finishing out the haven't seen anyone, and he's like, oh, I was really hoping for this one to win. And he's like, oh, why? And he's just, the only one I saw. He's like, sucks to be you. And oh, Pat and Charles, don't change. Comedy, great. And then we ended with the best, like, I don't know whose idea, if this was Ro, because I know Ro wrote out a bunch of the scouts, or if Lunar Girl came up with this way, but the Ferris Bueller's Day Off is a big thing for me. And so what do we cut but Lunar Girl Kelly, that with her coffee mug, as she's always done, she's like, you're still here? The show's over. It's over. And she does like that whole bit. And I'm like, I just love this. What a powerful way to end this thing. Like, the first thing in Parsec Awards, of course, some of us were stiff, some of us were nervous, or different things, but a lot of us are podcasters who aren't used to being on video. This came out amazingly well. For something made with pretty much zero budget and all this, and I look at the Game Awards. The Game Awards, in my opinion, was a travesty, and that it could not be more boring. It was basically, people watch not to see the awards, but to see the commercials, basically the game announcements in between. But they make the awards are done in such a way that they are like everybody's completely detached from it. Then you have things like Microsoft and Sony doing their follow-ups. Each of them had really strong showings in they're not called directs, but whatever they're called, showcases, and then they had their own shows around the Game Awards, and they actively made me less interested in their consoles. So I was just boggled. And then you had Disney who did Disney Day, and they completely missed the ball on Star Wars, and they just so I'm watching these different award shows, and I'm looking at things like some of these fan projects that I've seen from different podcasts. I know Segabits did one for video games. It's amazing how much more interested I am in real people talking about this stuff than hearing people who were just, playing out the part, and they're not being truthful. You'll never hear somebody at the Oscars go, and the nominees are this. Well, I haven't actually seen that. Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's real like that. This was really good. This is really good, and I look forward to continuing on doing it. I look forward to all of us getting even better about it, but I can't wait till next year. And I know soon they're gonna start calling out for this stuff sooner this year. Their goal is to get more interaction with the Parsec Awards Twitter account and different things over the year, getting the interaction on this stuff throughout the year and being more ready and more smooth for it next year. So looking forward to it. And the 97 Bravo did an after party in which Cam Ray was wearing some sort of outfit that was hilarious. I think it was supposed to be Baby Yoda or Pikachu. I'm not sure, but that was hilarious. Like I said, I was in the vets waiting room, so I didn't get to join in, but I had a blast with it. I had a blast with this whole project, and if you haven't seen it, I'm gonna put a link to it in the description. Subscribe to the Red5 Network. Go onto their Twitter. They have a a link tree or something in there that has all of the extra tech he's put together with everybody's kind of contact information, so that you can follow all these different pods. Check them out. Over 30 podcasts. I guarantee you're going to find more than one that you're going to absolutely love. And with that, I will catch you in the next video.